here we go. And there's an easy little joint that comes here that you just kind of slide your knife flat around there and then across here, and then push it, and the shank bone comes off. And it's all just more of the same. You just gently pulling the meat away from the bone, and there's your shank bone. And let's see, while we're at that, I want to show you something about a deer bone that's pretty interesting to anybody that ever pays attention. It's got a gentle curve to it, and that's unique to deer. Deer have that, and no other domestic animals have that, because it helps them jump. So anyway, here we are. We've got the rest of the shoulder bone to come out. I guess you'd call it an arm bone is what it would be. I think, what do they call this in a human being? We've got the radius and the ulna, and I don't know which is which. So here we go. We've got the front shoulder is all boned out, and there's some good parts to this. The shank part can be in ground deer or stew meat. And then there's some other parts in here that you can kind of seam off. There's a part on the side here that's called a mock tenderloin, because it looks a little bit like a tenderloin. If you got a good imagination. It's not tender, but it looks like one. It makes a nice piece of stew. And there's some seams you can kind of take off here. And you kind of have to look at the meat and see how the grain runs. Runs like this. You could actually cut some nice little steaks off of this. Be nice to use a bigger knife, but anyway, there they are. And that will run down to where it angles off in a different direction. And this part that angles off in a different direction is what's known as a flat iron. If it's a beef, they use this. People cut steaks out of these. But in our case, we'll probably just leave it as a chunk for stew meat or for grind. Anyway, we've just about got one side of this thing done, and the other part that's got to be done is this rib section. And not too many people make deer ribs, so what we're just going to do is just peel the meat away from the bones and do what we did before, just kind of pull on the meat as we try our best to hug that bone. And like I said, this looks wasteful, but if you were going to take it to a locker plant to have it done, they would probably be doing something very similar to this. And that's about as far as I will take that. I'll just call that good, and that stuff's going to go to the dogs. And we've got a pretty nice pile of meat for grinding. And the guy that skinned this deer, who was not me, he did a pretty good job of cleaning it up. So we don't have too much to worry about except for this bloodshot. And that's the tedious part of cutting deer. That's the part that every meat cutter that cuts deer just hates dealing with this bloodshot. Well, you just kind of have to be ruthless and cut it away because it's really not good for anything. And you don't want to end up with too much deer fat in your grind because when it freezes it over a period of time, it gets a flavor that not too much of the young generation likes. So your options when you've gone this far is you can, as you can see, there's just so much bloodshot underneath here that this rib section is really, it's a part that I'm not going to play with anymore. But you can see you've got a nice little pile of meat here that you can go to, you can take and have ground, or if you have a grinder, you can do that process yourself. And we've got down here, we've got these nice little backstrap pieces that can be, like I say, either steaks or, like a pretty little New York steak that can be like that, or they can just be left in chunks. And you got these two nice fillets that are good, just cooked all kinds of ways. And I could do this other shoulder or this other leg, but I think you have the gist of this right here. And I think we'll call that good. So we do another segment. Thank you.